Hello, everybody. This is Fascination Street. We're the Fascination Street Boys. I'm your co-host, Mika Pearson, and your host, Jimmy Pearson.
Hey, how you doing? All good? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. You good?
I'm good. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. You good?
Are you good? I'm good. And we got producer Sarah with us today as well.
Evening, guys.
Ah, and with us, we also have our esteemed guest, Mr. Dave Partridge from Shadows of Your Mind magazine.
Evening. No
So,
need for
Dave,
that.
how are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Don't get that on every show you go on, do you?
No, wasn't expecting that. Round of applause. Only get
There
that
you
when
go.
I fall over.
It's Fascination Street. Anything can happen.
Brilliant. No, I'm very happy to be here. Very happy to be here.
So you should be. It's a high platform now.
It is. I want to say hello to everyone who's out in the chat room and out in the field and watching your great show.
Excellent. Cool. Right. So to start off with, Dave,
Yeah.
are you ready for the bio bit? Do you want a brace or anything first?
No, go on then. Hit me.
Right, just breathe. Okay, are you ready? So Dave's interest in the mystery surrounding UFOs and extraterrestrial life dates back to childhood and flicking casually through a copy of Carl Sagan's Cosmos. Having already been down the and back out the rabbit hole more than a few times, he decided to return once more to the murky depths of ancient knowledge, nicely put, and ufology to create Shadows of Your Mind. Drawing on over 20 years of graphic design and publishing experience, Dave found the ideal platform to share and discuss his discoveries with like-minded truth seekers, hoping to find answers to his own questions. That's you.
That is me. I still haven't found the answers, so
That's you.
I don't know. Do you want to help me find the answers?
I just thought it was like I loved it. Just got through. It was that's the first time I've actually had to run through it proper, and then that
Really?
proper chuckles. So, Dave, who
Yeah.
are you, and who's around you?
Pretty good. Who's around me?
Yeah,
Well, no one
Who
unless
you
you
got?
can see anyone. Can you see
The
anyone
rest
around
of
me?
the team. The rest of the team.
Yeah.
I don't know what's that on the wall. What's that? Oh no, that's a thing. Sorry.
That is a thing. I have things
team.
around me.
Yeah.
What, the team? The Shadows of Your Mind team?
Yeah,
You're looking at it.
it's just you.
Just me.
Serious.
Whoa.
You do and you put
Well,
everything.
I am the editor, publisher, writer, interviewer, proofreader, all right, sometimes badly.
Everything.
Although I do need to say thank you very much to Laurie and Michael Moriarty of Pursuing X, who, they've been very kind and helped me out with the social media over the last year. And without them, I don't think the magazine could have grown as quickly as it did. So,
And what's your reader base up to at the moment?
I don't know. I don't really pay attention to it, to be honest, because I've got it on so many platforms.
Yeah, of course.
And it's free to download from shadowsmagazine.co.uk anyway. I'm not counting numbers. I don't need to. There's no one to report to. So, there's no one counting.
We know it's just such a big magazine.
Cheers.
And
thanks.
We've been aware of it for quite some time.
Yeah.
And we know a lot of people that are also very, very aware of it. So it's not like it's, like a little thing that was just sort of like one of those, that you just used to pick up from sort of like the newspaper stand or something when you was a kid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is growing momentum, and like, the places where it's kind of known and stuff like that. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
No, that's really good to know, because I don't hear any of that, to be honest. I'd like to spend more time, in chat rooms on other people's videos and things like that. But busy working the day job, family time, can't always stay up till like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, hanging out with, Richard Dolan or people like that, Linda Moulton House Earth Files. So, I try and catch up with it on YouTube during the week if I can, and see what's going on.
I know what it's like for me trying to sort of like pin down, a normal sort of like relatively normal job, as well as trying to be a husband, parent, as well as like trying to knock out research, trying to do things like get involved in other subjects that I'm involved in, trying to read up on stuff like that, you know, and then trying to put a show together. I mean, these things are really, really difficult.
I can
Yeah,
imagine.
I mean, I couldn't even imagine trying to do what you do, and you do a lot more than I do.
I think I'm lucky because I usually spend like a couple of hours every night delving into what was going on, trying to catch up on the latest news, trying to catch up on what other people are talking about.
Yeah.
However, you know, since about Christmas, I've kind of put that to one side. Try to just focus on the old school research in ufology because, you know, I think people don't know enough about the older guys in this day and age. I mean, with Project Blue Book coming out, I mean, that's been fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, J. Allen Hynek's his name's back in, you know, back in the media circles, back in the ufology circles. Hopefully, you know, that will pave the way for people to find out about Major Donald Keogh, Edward Ruppelt, the Lorenzens, you know, Howard Wilkins as well, I think.
Yeah.
You know, people need to go back and find out who these older researchers were. Look at the cases they were looking at, because that is such, you know, it's basically the touchstone of what the kind of thing that we do today, basically.
Yeah, of course. What do you think's brought this sort of like change about, Dave? Because I mean, you think up until a few years ago, I mean, it was all kind of very under the carpet. We won't talk about that. But there seems to have been a real kind of shift in. I mean, I don't know about like you at work or whether or not you're kind of like the tinfoil hat guy or like. I mean, I've said before, you know, there's been people that have come up, spoke to me at work, and been like, "Hey, I believe I'm with you. I know what you're on about." It's not so anymore. It's okay to be a ufologist. It's okay to look at these subjects. It's okay to do this. You know, it
is, but at the same time, it isn't, because I think what I'm trying to say is people are aware that there's something else going on, and there is more UFO related material in the media. However, I think there's still a great deal of skepticism about it. Same with the paranormal, cryptids, things like that. You know, people aren't going to believe it until they've seen it themselves.
Yeah, of course.
But I think the shift happened has to be when TTSA announced what they were doing in October 2017. And then 2 months later, we got the whole Nimitz, Tic Tac, Pentagon missing trillions. You know, it's front page news. It went around the world. I mean, that was great. It was in the public eye for a couple of months, then it disappeared again. So that was, I mean, it's still there, still hanging around in the news, but, you know, you've still got these little factions hanging about in other places. You got someone believes this, someone believes that. These two will never agree on anything. And you know, people talk about the UFO community, but since starting this magazine, I thought there was a UFO community, and I thought, great, want to be a part of that. Get to meet some great people, interview, you know, people like Richard Dolan, Peter Lavender, Linda Moulton Howe. But then I saw that there's not actually that much of a community there. It is basically very tribal.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem at the moment. We need to find common ground. We need people to be nice to each other.
Yeah.
And we need to sort out who's doing it just for notoriety and financial gain, and who's actually interested in finding out, you know, what's going on.
Yeah, of course. No, I couldn't agree more. I sat yesterday and had an over an hour long Skype call with Philip Mansell.
Oh yeah, good guy, Phil.
And, yeah, well, we've got Phil coming on. He's coming to do our beginner's guide to ufology. So quite excited for that. But again, you know, we had the same conversation because I mean, you know me, you've known me for a while now, and you know the kind of I've been down the conscious side of things. I've been down the nuts and bolts side of things, and I mean, you know, everyone has a different opinion. Like you know, I was kind of a bit with the way that it kind of contrasted
Yeah,
amongst certain people, but once people, I think, start kind of get the idea that it's all related in one way or another, there is a relation there.
there is.
Obviously, put aside, you know, the ones that are making the money out of it and
Mm.
giving it a bad name, because at the end of the day, wherever there's money to be made, you're always going to find that anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got nothing against people trying to make money. However, when you're pushing the lies and you're pushing a certain point of view,
Yeah.
and you're trying to basically fleece people for an hour and a half before you're actually giving them information, or you're creating all these marketing gimmicks, then you're not doing anything positive. You're just contributing, well, nothing really.
And of course, and that's one of the nice things that I like about you is the fact that you've got all this information and you put in all this hard work and you do it for free.
Yeah.
You don't charge people for the time, effort, you know, the evenings that you could have been sat at home with the family doing bits and pieces or being out and about. You've sat there, you've worked really, really hard for nothing because you're getting the information out. So, I mean,
Well,
whether or not that's reward enough, I don't know. But again, it's all totally free. Shadows of Your Mind is free, people.
yeah. Damn it. Yeah, no,
right, that's it. Should we just wrap it up and go home now?
Yeah.
Done.
No, it was always my intention just to find the answers out for myself. I mean, if I go into the history of how the magazine started, basically I've been in publishing for 20 odd years, over 20 years. And I was freelance for about 4 or 5 years, working on various different titles, different newsstand magazines. And one day I just decided I've had enough of it. I want to go back into full-time employment. My grandmother had recently died. And I was just looking on job sites, trying to find something else. And I found this job I'd kept an eye on. And it was the last day of the deadline for applications. I was still umming and ahhing about it. And then I just caught this whiff of my grandmother's perfume for no reason whatsoever. And I thought, well, that's trying to tell me something. So fired off the application, got an interview 2 days later. 2 days after that, they offered me the job, got back into full-time employment. Brilliant. First day there, there's 2 guys. I won't name them because they'll go to their heads. But they came up to me and said, "Oh, have you heard of such and such? You know, what do you think of UFOs? Things like that." You know, first day there. All right, hang on a minute. Now, honestly, I was into UFOs a long time ago. You know, I lived in a house that had paranormal activity when I was younger. Things like invisible people sitting on beds, or people, you know, family members being nudged in the back. You see things out the corner of your eye when you're looking in the mirror. So yeah, these 2 guys, they come up to me and they say, talking about this thing. One of them's big Willie Strieber fan, the other's mad on Billy Meyer. And then I just get this flashback of everything that I was learning 20 years previously. And so I got back into it slowly. Started listening to various radio stations, various interviews, got to know the kind of names that were involved. And I started accumulating all this information, making notes. And I just sat down one day and said, "I've got all this info. I don't know what to do with it. I know, I'll start my own UFO wiki page." And realized how much work that would involve. So can that? And I thought, well, what do I know? So I just thought, all right, I'll just do a couple of layouts, see what happens. And that's how the mag was born. I have no idea where the title came from. So don't ask me that, because I can't remember.
Right, that's that one crossed off the list. Give me a second. Yeah, okay, right, next, carry on.
And yeah, I just fired off a few emails to various people. Nick Pope got back to me. A guy called Charles J. Hall got back to me, who was well, he was supposed to work in the Indian Springs up by Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada.
Yeah.
He was a weather observer out there for the Air Force, and he had encounters with what he calls the tall whites. These 9 foot, 9 foot beings, 8 or 9 foot. Well, they're taller than us anyway. They age slower than us. And, I got to know, spoke to him for a bit. As I said, Nick Pope, Michael Cremo, who wrote Forbidden Archaeology. I was really happy that he responded. I did a feature about the million-year-old human skeletons that have been found in various geostrata, things like that. And I had a mate of mine who's a writer who wrote, he actually wrote a book about Brian May's red guitar. He's always used the history of that guitar, which quite successful. But he was a freelance writer. He didn't know anything about any of the subjects, and I just got him to write about the Dyatlov Pass mystery. He did it, and he's suddenly hooked into all these kind of paranormal mysteries. And he sends me little things now and again, and it's just little things like that. You get people involved who aren't necessarily into it, and you drag them in, and then they go away and they research a bit more, and then they come back at you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, nowadays it's so easy to research as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, as long as you've got kind of a bit of an idea of like how to navigate your way around the web, there's nothing really that you can't, unless there's something there they don't want you to find. It's pretty easy to research, right?
There is, but I found that going back to the older books, that's where you're going to find the more relevant information, going back to the earlier cases. I can't, everything that I read on the internet, I do have to try and get about 6 different stages of verification for it, because I just don't trust it.
Well, it's not only that as well, it's also what you're putting out there as well. I mean, there's a lot of great content that goes into there anyway. And, you don't want to be putting something out without verifying, and then sort of like the next thing, you've got the mob at the door, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest mistake I've made is increasing the page count 30 pages. So I've actually put more info in it. I thought, I'll just, why not? Let's do a bumper issue. And then I did another bumper issue. And then I'm trying to, not do another one if I can help it, but it looks like it's going to be another packed issue next issue. I don't know why I do it.
Yeah.
No, I do know why I do it.
Yeah, I do know why I do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's clearly not for the money, so it's all for the love.
Well, no, I never do anything for money.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. No,
okay,
there's rumours are false.
Party coming up soon. How's your entertaining?
My entertaining?
Yeah, you don't do it for money, mate. You can come and entertain Mika's kids at his party.
I'll do karaoke, Guns N' Roses.
Now you're talking. Right, okay. Nice segue. I see what you did there. Right, okay. So, for you folks that are now watching, just like literally seconds before Dave and I came on air, there was a news update that came through on my phone from Guns N' Roses Central, because both Dave and I are massive Guns N' Roses fans. In fact, I'm even wearing my Guns N' Roses 1992 World Tour.
Use your illusion tour.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as we was going on, there was breaking news that Guns N' Roses are doing a 2019 tour. Whether or not that falls into, after that, the release of a new album, we don't know, because there is talk of it. I did read an interview with Duff McKagan yesterday. So whether or not that happens, that's going to be well interesting to see.
Yeah, because Slash has spoken about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've all been very vocal. I mean, Duff wouldn't give a great deal away in the interview that I saw yesterday. But he did say that after the last tour that they'd done, the Not in the Lifetime tour, everything finished so amicably, so positively, that everything's great. But I also noticed the other day that Duff put out a Instagram of a brand new guitar.
Okay. We'll see. Let's live in hope.
I'm there.
Which comes first, the Guns N' Roses album or Disclosure?
Why be that guy? Why be that guy?
You
I
never
was
know.
riding a nice, intense high there until you threw that one out there.
Well, how long did we wait for Chinese Democracy? The album, not segueing into politics or anything.
I was wondering where you were going with that for a second there.
No.
Yeah, I know, but it's not really Guns N' Roses. That's the dirty little secret. Well, we say everyone else wouldn't hear us in the chat room. How have we gone from UFOs to Guns N' Roses? Oh, let's just carry on with Guns N' Roses. So, but yeah, no, I'm genuinely so stoked. I really, really am. That
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
I never.
be good.
I mean, you're what, a couple of years younger than me?
I'm 26.
So yeah, you're a couple of years younger.
No.
Yeah.
See what you did. See what you did.
No, I was actually born the day Elvis Presley died.
Cool. I can't count back that far.
The world had just gone into colour.
The world had just gone into colour. There you go. See, you were right. The world was black and white.
Yes.
75?
I knew it.
77, August 16th.
77.
Haha.
My birthday.
Oh, there you go. Day before Sarah's birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like within hours of him dying, I was born. So.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was Presley.
No.
Whoa.
I'm not saying you are, but I've never seen you and him in the same room.
I know.
Just
it's weird. I've never worked in a chip shop either.
That's outrageous.
How have we gone from UFOs, Guns N' Roses, Elvis Presley, date of birth, and chip shops? What is going on?
Well, there used to be, back in the 80s, I think, there was a load of stories about Elvis had been spotted in various places. He was in a double-decker bus on the moon. And there was a song that came out that said, I swear, what was it called? I swear the guy who works down the chip shop is Elvis. Or something along those lines. Says.
Just don't find songs like that anymore, do you?
No.
Just don't find them.
No. Or up my jumper. No.
Hole in my shoe. Fill him with water.
Exactly. Hole in my bucket. Anyway, yeah.
Yes.
Back on.
So Guns N' Roses. No. Let's stay on with Guns N' Roses.
Okay, right.
No, let's not. Let's move on. Right. So what we were saying earlier about, like, you know, going back to sort of like nuts, bolts, and then kind of going back old school again. I mean, like, your introduction to all this was obviously flicking through like Carl Sagan's Cosmos.
Yeah, there was a section on UFOs towards the back, or extraterrestrial life, and Carl Sagan was a believer, although publicly he had to be very skeptical about everything. Because you don't get doctorates or peer-reviewed papers, you know, by believing in UFOs. So yeah, there was just this section in the back, and I just remember these. I think he had one of the Adamski pictures in there. There was also that. I'm not sure if it's Adamski's photo or not, but like a figure in front of a craft. The figure's all blurred.
Oh,
black and white.
Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah,
no,
it was one of those.
Weren't it? Was that Lamb? No, not Lamb. Why am I thinking Lamb? Lamb?
No, it wasn't Lamb. No, that's Crowley. Alistair Crowley did Lamb, didn't he?
Oh, what was? I know.
Yeah, I can see it now. I can't remember who did it. But under these photos and all this,
anyone in the chat room? Anyone in the chat room on that one? No. Everyone's drawn a blank. Nice one, Dave. You stumped everyone.
Great. But no, underneath all these pictures, there was 3 illustrations of potential extraterrestrials. Yeah. One looked like a little werewolf dude, kind of like the beings from Critters, you know, the Critters films. There was one, a little Mika-looking dude. And what was the other one? Yeah, it was like a little gremlin or something like that. But those 3 little pictures terrified me as a kid. I used to flick them and
Crowley was Lamb.
Yeah, Crowley was Lamb.
Someone's come up with Crowley. And I think also the fact that, like, we grew up in a real kind of sci-fi kind of period as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we had so much around us. I mean, because again, not only are we massive Guns N' Roses fans, we're also very big Star Wars fans.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like for me, I mean, like the catalyst for me was Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
I mean,
know?
it was Star Wars, and you think about the TV programs on at the time as well, like the old Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, I loved that so much.
Yeah, the Cylons. They were
Yeah,
Cylons, weren't they?
Cylons.
Also, the old Clone Wars on it as well.
Oh no, that came a lot later, sweetheart.
No.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to destroy you, but that was.
We had Ewok Adventures instead.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Dougie.
Star Wars Christmas special.
Yeah, but no, I was never a big Star Trek fan, or Doctor Who was a bit of a stretch as well. You know, I never really watched that. No, I mean, I think the Peter Davidson era, whatever Doctor he was, those were probably the ones I watched. The ones with K9, little robot dog. But yeah, I mean, sci-fi is just
Baker. Baker.
No, Peter Davidson took over from Tom Baker.
Tom Baker. Weren't he the one with K9? We are like the worst sci-fi fans ever.
No, I think Davidson was K9. Yeah. But yeah, sci-fi is just... It was the right era for all that sci-fi to come out. The advances in technology, you know, the stories that were coming out were fantastic. You know, you got like James Cameron doing The Abyss. Sorry?
Even the movies.
Yeah.
The movies were amazing. I mean, when you look at kind of stuff like Blade Runner, when it kind of looked into the future, you know, like 2020, whatever, in Los Angeles, and you kind of look at it now and you're like, we're still a little way from a horrible car, but we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely.
Yeah, like Back to the Future 2, that was supposed to happen last year.
There you go.
Well, I'm still waiting for Jaws 49.
Come out the screen at you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Was it 49 or 42? Probably. But yeah, you had the Alien films. You know, there was a lot of sci-fi horror, I think, going on at the time.
Yeah.
Which you had like Critters, as I mentioned before, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. The Blob was remade around that time, wasn't it?
Yeah. But what do you think there may have been an agenda back then, or do you think it was just circumstantial with sort of like the advance of culture at that time?
Well, I've got to remember at that time, Ronald Reagan's talking about the whole Star Wars defense systems. So there was obviously a paranoia about Earth being attacked from outer space by, you know, men in green suits or little furry things that could roll up into balls and shoot needles in your face.
Beautifully put.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Reagan, because Reagan kind of instituted it and he started cooperating with Russians as well, you know, there's this kind of feeling that we're all coming together for one purpose for some reason. You know, is that famous speech he did in the UN
speech. Yeah.
Yeah. But after that, it all went a bit wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I mean,
I don't know what I think. It all just went underground.
Yeah.
You know, and we've seen
all of that, and then sort of like slow loss of like the Apollo programs and bits and pieces as well. I mean, you know, we've all heard everything that like NASA said about, you know, not being able to find the designs and stuff. I mean, seriously, really?
Well, if you think about it, smartphones, they are more powerful than the computers that put Armstrong and Aldrin on the moon.
Exactly.
Apparently, allegedly.
Yep.
Yes, they were on the moon, but more powerful allegedly. So, but didn't they find a load of old stuff in an abandoned KFC?
Seriously?
Yeah, they found a load of. It was being used as a NASA data storage building for some reason. There was a load of old files or a load of old data cassettes, something like that. They just found them in this abandoned. I think NASA had taken it over or bought it and just used it as storage.
So there we go. Now we found the secret ingredient. It's not from this world.
Exactly, it's moon dust.
Brilliant. You're right. That's all right. Cool. Outrageous. So, when you moved on from that, what did you have like any early projects or anything like that after you kind of really got into anything? I mean, did you like write for a school paper or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Right. Well.
Right, moving on to different subjects.
No, nothing like that. My old man was in publishing as well, so that was kind of how I got into it all.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, I worked for two of the biggest UK publishing houses through my career, and I kind of paid attention to certain things. Worked with some good people higher up. Really good art people as well. So that's kind of it's a good grounding, for doing what I do now.
Yeah. What did the family think when you said, "Oh, I'm going to do this magazine"?
Oh, it was kind of facepalm moments. A couple of them. The old, really again.
Yeah, no, I relate to that well because when I said about doing this, Sarah was just like, Jim, no, just no. It's not gonna no. But given a couple of days, I got it sorted.
No, it's kind of look, I'll do it. I won't involve you, so that's all right. I'll just get on with it. You just leave me to my own little weird hobby, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I said the same. Now look at her, she's producing and everything. She spent most of the week sat down learning new sort of like OBS and stuff like that. So let's hope for you yet, mate.
There is. Great.
Away.
Yeah. I saw Sarah's interview with John D'Souza as well.
Yeah, exactly. And she does pretty well in front of the camera, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, there is no way I could have done that at all. Honestly, there was so many painkillers. I'd been, let me think, how many days under like just strict tramadol non-stop just to try and get through a day. It was horrendous. So me kind of, I mean, I probably run, I see it like that. And I don't think that's really attractive to someone like, yeah, exactly. It was a me, myself, and Irene moment, if you've seen that.
Yeah.
So what other subjects have you covered in the magazine? So I've dribbled a bit there. I'm sorry if you're watching in HD.
Other subjects. Well, we've done the.
So I mean, how many
top
issues
10
have
list,
you done so far?
How many issues? 6 at the moment in a year and a half. So that's pretty much, that was a lot of work. I like doing the top 10 lists. Covered the top 10 ancient sites in the Americas. So you got a load in Central America, the old Aztec and the Mayans and the Olmecs. Yeah, no, the Olmecs.
Right.
And then you got the old Native American sites, and then you go further down into the Amazon, things like that. I want a bit of a paranormal kick at the moment.
Fair one.
Started watching Ghost Adventures again.
You'll enjoy next week's show. It's our Paranormal 101.
Is it? Cool.
Yeah,
Who's
got
doing
Kat
that?
Hobson.
All right, yeah.
From Fate magazine. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that one because I've tried to keep it on a down low because I do have an interest in the paranormal and like obviously being down here in Kent is properly haunted. And growing up as teenagers, I mean, we've got like a fortress up behind where I live with like a massive like moat all the way around it. And we always used to go up ghost hunting, but I didn't want to kind of talk about it too much and kind of, influence the mind of little people. I don't want to go into bed and like, oh God, he talks about it again. So, I want to wait till he's like a teenager before I torture him properly.
Yeah.
I still like him at the moment.
I don't really care about ghosts because at the end of the day, ghosts are still kind of the exact same as spirits, but instead they're just a bit different.
Not necessarily. They could be. But no, I had an email couple of days ago from the most haunted museum in America. It's called the Museum of Shadows in Nebraska. I think they've recently been voted. So, hopefully be working on something with them. Do a couple of features on some of the artifacts they've got in their museum. I think there's one doll they've got called Ada. Yeah.
Oh!
It's supposed to be more terrifying than Annabelle.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because I know of Annabelle.
What's Annabelle?
We'll explain that another time, sweetheart.
Yeah, but I think this one makes Annabelle look like Woody from Toy Story.
Oh, I like Woody.
Yeah.
Oh.
But no, I'm reading a book by Brian Allen, who's editor of Phenomena magazine. He's got a book called Project Phenomena, and that's investigating the paranormal and things like that, because he's very well versed in all that. And I do some work for Phenomena. The word I can't say is phenomena, which is
you just done it. Well done, you. Well done. Golf clap. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Right, what word was it again?
Phenomena. There we go.
You never think about it.
Phenomena.
Right. Phenomena.
Banana.
Look, I'm trying to host a show and be professional here.
Phenomena.
Right. Okay. So you've covered like top tens, paranormal.
Top tens, paranormal, ancient history.
Yeah.
Have I done ancient history? Yes.
You have now.
We have Michael Cremo in the first issue. I forgot to read my own mag before it came on. So I've definitely done something.
Yeah.
But recently it's been more ufology. Linda Moulton Howe did an interview with her, going through her career and talking about cattle mutilations. I spoke to Richard Dolan last year, talking about the old school UFO researchers. Spoke to his wife Tracy about remote viewing. So those two will be in the next issue. Spoken with John Souza, Jeremy Corbell. Spoke about his films first, and then thought, right, you got Skinwalker coming out. We'll talk about Skinwalker.
That was your last. That was this issue, wasn't it?
Skinwalker was.
No, Skinwalker was before you got Bob Lazar and Jeremy Corbell in this one.
Yeah. We currently do have a competition to win 2 signed posters of the Bob Lazar film. So signed by Bob himself.
Did you?
All details in the mag, because I can't remember them now.
Okay. Okay, so we're going for ufology. What we got next?
Consciousness. We did a big interview with Grant Cameron. That was in the last issue. Eric von Daniken was in the previous issue.
Yep, I remember that one. Because you can actually download the last 3 issues, can't you?
No, you download them all.
Can you download them all? I thought you could download the last.
Download them all. Yeah, okay. Go on to Shadows magazine and download them.
Okay, I'll scrub that one off my notes in a minute. That's it. Have you done much on cryptids?
No.
No.
Did a brief look at the Patterson film in the first issue. Nope.
Oh, what's going on?
That's me.
There you go.
Sarah's doing stuff.
Yeah, I'm revamping the website, as you can see.
Oh, look, you revamped it. Well, it's still there.
Brilliant.
I forgot that was
right, because when you think about cryptids again,
first time it went wrong.
I have got an absolute knockout story that you'll love.
Go on.
Right, it was about 1998, and it's a story of the Beast of Brass Knocker.
You watched Natasha Next, didn't you? Oh, funny.
You got really red, dude.
Yeah. I should have seen that bus coming, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Would you like to tell people the story of Beast of
The
Brass
Beast
Knocker.
of Brass Knocker Hill.
Mika knows. Even Mika knows.
Yeah, I've been to a friend's wedding, had a couple of shandies. We're in a taxi on the way back. There's a massive hill just outside Bath in England. It's called Brass Knocker Hill. You have to go up it in like second gear first if you've got too many people in the car. I was feeling a bit worse for wear. Asked the taxi driver to stop. Well, someone else said, stop the car now. And yeah, I did what I had to do. And I think it was in the local paper a couple of days later that people have been hearing weird, unnatural noises coming from the vicinity of Brass Knocker Hill on that Saturday night. And they wondered what it was. Yeah. Cheers, Jam.
That brightened up my day.
Mate, honestly, ever since I heard that interview, I was just like, oh, I could.
Oh, man. Yeah. I should have seen the bus coming.
Yeah. But it was worth it. It was so
yeah.
worth it.
That's twice now I've had to tell that story.
I know, but honestly, for anyone that ever hears it, it's one of those classic ones. I mean, it gets that, right?
Yeah. Although, to be fair, there have been sightings of black cats around there. You know, the big puma-like black cats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another type of lion.
Yeah, look, you know, like proper black cat.
Meow.
These aren't quite meows, no. These are like.
Not meow.
Yeah, because we've got the guys, the Beasts of Britain, coming on to do our cryptid beginner's guide as well.
They're one of the ones on my list to get hold of. I did want to speak to Jeff Meldrum as well, who does a load of Bigfoot research.
Is he the guy that done all the videos on YouTube? He done like a documentary video looking for Bigfoot in the UK, because I watched some of those and they were amazing.
Can't remember. He's
a bit northern.
Who? Jeff Meldrum?
Yeah.
No, he's a professor in the States. University professor in the States.
No, there's a guy in the UK, and he's done all these videos about being in search of Bigfoot in the UK. And honestly, a knockout, mate. Really, really cool.
Is that called Elusive? No. I know. I'll have to send me the link. I'll look them up.
That rings a bell.
Right.
So yeah. But no, because we looked at some bits and pieces as well, because it was a little while ago that we had a show with friends of ours, and it was to do with sort of like the telepathy of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So obviously done a little bit of research there, because I wanted to have a little bit of background knowledge, because when it comes to cryptids, I'm really not down with it that much. No. I mean, I'm aware of sort of like various mystical beasts and things like that, but it's not something that's kind of really cropped up on the radar, you know.
No, I think because I suppose in the UK, when we think cryptids, we think of Nessie.
That's it.
And that is it. You know,
that's the Patterson footage that you saw, sweetheart. That's over in America.
Oh,
where's Dave gone? Dave, we've lost Dave.
Whoa.
Oh, he's back.
No, I'm here. You went.
Sorry, you playing with the computer again.
I'm not playing with that. I'm not playing with it.
Yeah. So no, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Beast of Bodmin and things like that, and
and then of course you had the Hand of the Baskervilles, and that gave a load of myths came off of that. A load of people kept seeing all these big dogs, on the moors. It's funny, you read something and then it gets into the public consciousness, and then people start seeing them everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So wasn't that? I think that was that was one of the bases for American Werewolf, weren't it? That story. It was kind of a revamped version of Conan Doyle's Hound of the Baskervilles.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That was another great film as well.
Oh, I know, right? Well, gory. It's all right, because I'm a big collector of horror movies. I have like quite an extensive collection from sort of like 1921. Kind of sort of like, absolutely, all really old ones, and got a nice bit of sort of like German cinema in there as well, mixed in.
They're not horror films, though.
I don't know. Some of the things in there are pretty horrible.
What do you think of the Rob Zombie films? Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses.
I don't know. I'm a guy that likes things that play on the mind, not just the whole kind of shock horror kind of bleh.
I'm a guy.
I was never. Sorry, babe.
I'm a guy that likes horror.
You get in there. You get in there. Yeah, I mean, I was never a big kind of slasher fan and stuff like that. I really kind of like the clever stuff.
Yeah.
But saying that, I mean, I do have a real love for Romero's movies, the original trilogy of the Dead. I adore those movies. I know you can watch them now and they just look so fake in places, but you know, I laid in bed the other night and I was kept awake. So I managed to polish off both the Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead extended cuts and like in high def as well. And I was like, this is just heaven. It really, really is. So yeah, I love those movies. But then
I've got to admit, those type of movies are pretty
good.
good.
Because you've seen Dawn of the Dead, haven't you?
Yeah. And it's also really funny as well. I find it like comedy.
Yeah, because you relate it to Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Didn't we all?
Yeah,
We've
absolutely.
all been there. We've all been there.
Shaun of the Dead was amazing.
That's brilliant.
It was a really, really good film.
Good comedy.
Obviously, you watched it when we weren't about.
Outrageous, you liars.
Unbelievable.
I know, parenting, it's not what it used to be, right?
Oopsies.
Yeah, I remember watching some Blair Witch Paranormal Activity, the first one. They're the only two that really freaked me out. And I mean, properly freaked me out.
Which bit done you at Blair Witch?
It wasn't so much actually, it was when they were in the tent and something's attacking the tent from the outside.
You see the face and the hands. And
yeah, because I used to go camping with mates quite a lot. Yeah. And that bit always freaked me out.
Right.
But yeah, the rest of it was fun.
Was the last bit with the guy stood in the corner. That's the bit that messed me up the most out of that whole film. Was the guy stood in the corner.
Yeah.
Wow, how scared you standing in the corner.
You see, that's it. That's what I mean. I like clever movies like that, not just sort of like full on sort of like gore fests and stuff. I mean, I do genuinely. I mean, I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I like that because of the Ed Gein story that goes with it as well. Yeah. Because again, I don't know whether or not it's kind of ingrained in us with sort of like when it comes to sort of like horror or supernatural or stuff like that. It's there and it's stuff that you'll remember. It's real kind of La La Town, isn't it? It really is.
And I think that plays on kind of all the demonology aspects of the medieval, the Dark Ages and the big push of Catholicism. And, even before that, the whole kind of purge of all the old pagan gods.
Yeah.
I think they're all, I mean, we know they were all demonized. I mean, St. Patrick going to Ireland, it wasn't to get rid of all the snakes because there's been no snakes on Ireland in like forever. But it was just, well, it's true. But yeah, it's just the fact that St. Patrick was probably a slave who then became indoctrinated in the Christian religion, went over to Ireland and tried to convert them all from paganism into, the Roman Christian Empire. Yeah. And that's where we get, this whole thing about, the bad serpents and the, all these old gods that the pagans used to pray to. They were fertility gods. They were also gods of harvest, gods of death, gods of sickness, things like that. And most of them had the same, they had multiple duties, or were worshipped for multiple things. And so that's why we just get this whole demonology from, I think. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't demons, because obviously there's a host of evidence that says there are. And there's bad spirits, and we got bad juju, and there's all different kind of things that we need to keep an open mind to. Of
course.
But I think everything that's happened in human history has an effect, as it's like the butterfly effect. It goes on and on and on, and things get distorted, and you come to a point where you do need to sit back and take stock of what actually caused it in the first place.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree. And I also think like the other thing as well that we need to touch upon, as well as kind of like the whole demonology side of things, the fact that these are real people and this is real things that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it was that you said, we stopped looking for monsters when we realized they lived inside us. I can't remember who said that.
Can't remember now. But I think there was one quote that I remember from, trying to think of the TV show. To be honest, I think it was Trailer Park Boys, the Canadian comedy show. But there was one very poignant quote in one of the series, and it said something along the lines of, "You don't really know a man's character. Well, you don't really know your own character until you just stare into the black. You see your reflection in the black pit of where you are."
Yeah.
I think maybe he was talking about alcoholism, but
yeah, but it's still quite poignant, isn't it?
It is. I mean, you find out who you really are when you've got nothing left, and you're actually forced to look into the mirror and find out who you really are, and that's when you see all your own personal demons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get a few people.
Quote.
Maybe we should get a few people at Black Mirror.
No, that's a good series.
Yeah.
See what you did there.
Yeah. No, I'm going to lay that one down. I'm going to binge watch soon because I've got a week coming up where I'm off work.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Blue Book to binge.
Yeah. Right.
And to binge as well.
Right.
So I'm totally at the moment with regards to watching any of that or finding out anything. Kept it very low key because I am a binge watcher. I mean, I've been binge watching X-Files now. We managed to get seasons 1 to 9.
Yeah.
I didn't realize quite how many episodes are in each season.
Yeah, don't start on Stargate SG-1, will you?
Say what now?
Stargate SG-1, and then Stargate Atlantis. No, there's like 500 episodes, so don't do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, you're good. Mind you, saying what are we up to? So was there about 24 episodes a season of X-Files?
I got terrified.
So it's 9 seasons, 24 episodes. So that is a lot. Yeah. So
good maths.
Thank you very much. Use that one at school. Seriously, they'll be very impressed. So yeah, slowly. I think we've just got through season 4, but yeah, I need something new. So Blue Book was definitely the one. So I mean, the other thing about Blue Book, I know we touched on it earlier and stuff like that, but like you noticed as well as I did, the big advertising campaign around it as well.
Oh yeah, these billboards just sprung up. They weren't necessarily in prominent places either. They were down residential streets. I thought that was pretty cool. So, all right, so maybe we'll get some, maybe we'll get people more interested in what's going on. And is it part of a drip, drip, drip disclosure thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I've only seen the first episode of Blue Book, but the thing that made me go back and rewatch it and pause it was all the newspaper clippings in the office right at the start.
Leave that one there then.
Leave that one there. Pause it, zoom in, have a look at what's on the walls.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, right. So if you think, I mean, the next bit I want to touch on is the disclosure thing.
Right, yeah.
Now, as you've seen over the last couple of days, there's been a lot going out about the new TTSA series that's going to be coming out on history.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Can only be a good thing, right? I mean,
Right. I mean, I've always been one of the biggest skeptical TTSA guys out there. I was skeptical because of obviously the wheel out. There was a few pretty
it
major
hasn't
potholes along the
been
way.
without problems. No.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mylar
So
balloon
then-
was
Yeah.
that was the classic.
Yeah. And then obviously the fact that they were kind of tied into so many government agency workers and things like that.
But
But
that's not to say that every US government agency is bad or is, it's just completely rogue. There has to be good, decent elements that want to get information out there.
yeah, but then you say things like that, and then the first thing that comes to mind, Richard Doty.
True.
Everyone knows the Paul Bennett story. And for like a community like ours, it doesn't forget.
No, doesn't forget.
And that's it. It never does forget, right? It will always come back and bite you in the bum eventually.
It will.
And like for that happening and stuff like that, people are going to think back to that, the Paul Bennett story, which is why so many have always been very, very one sniff of a three-letter agency or anything like that. That's it. Like the blinds just come straight down. But
I think because there was always that kind of threat involved as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you start talking about UFOs and you get Men in Black turn up.
As you said earlier, and as I said on the show last week with Jason, because Jason Goldthorpe, that was on with us last week from the Unidentified. Oh, he's in the chat room. Hey, Jay, how are you? He will tell you that I was really TTSA when it first started because of these very reasons.
Yeah.
But again, as you said earlier, and as I've said before 1,000,001 times, I've always credited them with the fact that they've got the subject back on the table and people are talking about it. So even if they've got that going for them, that's still better than nothing, and it's still brought it on a lot further than what we've had in a long time, right?
It is. I think the other thing you have to consider is they don't care what people think of them. They're just going about their business. They're doing what they've set out to do. There's no distractions. All right, they have to put out the odd press release saying, yeah, all right, we got it wrong. But they are just going about their business. I mean, it's no secret that they wanted to do entertainment shows. I mean, you got the Secret Machines work as well.
Of course.
The two fiction novels at the moment, and then the non-fiction Secret Machines Gods, and a follow-up, which is going to be called Man, which I spoke to Peter Lavender about briefly before Christmas. And I don't see anybody else who's actually putting in this much effort into trying to get an answer. Everything just seems to be... They're kind of being open with it without being open with it. But they're not claiming that they have all these insiders or whistleblowers, or they're getting secret intel that they can't talk about until you pay an extra $99.99.
Yeah, of course.
So they're just... I think it's an efficient way of doing it, and people are screaming for all this information to come out now. Sometimes that's just not possible. You need to spend time putting it out in a format that people are going to pay attention to, and people are going to understand, and people are going to want to know more. And if that's in the form of something like the new show that's going out, then great. Let's do it.
Absolutely. I mean, me and you, we're old enough to be able to sit down and read a book like whatever Tom's putting out or Peter Lavender's putting out. We're old enough. But you try giving that book to Mika. There you go, son. This is about ufology. Crack on. So from what I can see of the whole multimedia TV programs, aiming things at other audiences and things like that, the way that they're wheeling that out, I think is a very, very clever way of doing it. Like we're going back and we're doing our beginner's guide to bits and pieces.
Yeah.
The way that they're doing that as well, because like Mika and I, we're massive like Tom DeLonge fans musically. We have been. We own every single album. We own every special edition album. We've got the Angel and Airwaves DVD Love when that movie came out. We've got all the Poet Anderson stuff. We've got all the comics. We've got all the, because it brings different bits and pieces to another level. I mean, Mika, you gave you the book to read of Poet Anderson, didn't understand it, gave you the comics, and you were away, right?
I'm afraid that is. Because I didn't understand, the book, because it wasn't, the exact same. So, as soon as I got my first comic on it, I was straight away on it away, because I understood all the words.
A lot easier, wasn't it, to read out? Because it was for someone, the book was great to sit down, because we tried reading it at bedtime, didn't we? And that was just an epic fail.
Yeah.
So
it gave me a lot of nightmares.
Yeah. And it mentions the F word a lot.
Does it?
Whoops, my bad.
Spoiler
Solid parenting again. Yeah, absolutely. So, to have the comments was a lot easier. So, if you're putting all these bits and pieces in there, it's not necessarily a bad thing. As I say,
if
a
you
few
need
roadblocks.
This day and age, you need to spread it over various platforms.
Yeah.
If you've got comics, great. The comics relate to the books, so the books take you a step further, and then you can branch out into kind of the secret machine stuff. The fiction or the non-fiction. The non-fiction. This first book, Gods. That started with the cargo cult from the Second World War on the South Pacific Islands. I'm sure everyone's familiar with what a cargo cult is, so I won't go into it. But then it goes into the old Babylonian history, and you learn they're not just books about ufology. There's history in there as well, actual archaeological history, which is what we need as well. We need to understand where we've come from, what our ancestors believed in, and how these stories can relate to what we're going through now.
Yeah, no, right on. Absolutely. Again, this goes back to everything that I've been trying to work out, everything I've been trying to learn with regards to sort of the consciousness, the ancient intelligent mysteries and stuff like that. That's why, a little while ago, it was an absolute pleasure to chat with Tracy Ash, because, the work that she's doing around the world with the Ancient Intelligent Mystery School is massive. It really is. I believe she's just got Japan. I think she's off to China soon to set up a school there as well. This thing is just getting bigger and bigger. People around the world are, I think, finally starting to wake up to these ideas.
And I think China and Japan, there's a lot of information that hasn't come out of China and Japan, which could help with the overall global solution to what we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. Again, we're too wrapped up in where we are now, not where we've been, where we've come from. We know we've had that solid block of time, which has just been solid amnesia.
Yeah.
Haven't we? There's a lot that we have forgotten. There was mighty flood 13,000 years ago, as they say. What was before that? How many more times have we been here? How much more time, have we passed on?
Well, as you know from the last issue, I'm a massive H.P. Lovecraft fan.
No, really? You kept that quiet?
I know. Come out of the closet now. But in his stories, he uses specific dates and events. He mentions specific authors who have written about ancient history. One guy mentions W. Scott Elliott, who wrote the story of Atlantis and Lost Lemuria. These are based on writings in a branch of theosophy in London. I think it was the London Lodge, which is obviously it's related to the Freemasons, and people may balk at that. Freemasons bad. But yeah, this W. Scott Elliott, he went into the actual geological and the social history of Lemuria and Atlantis, and he found that these mighty floods come along at every certain points in the Earth's history. We got the big one 9,000 or 12,000 years ago. And then there was one before that, which wiped out a good deal of the Atlantean population. There was one further back as well, which wiped out a good part. And it's just all this history you don't get to read about unless you go back to older records.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating because I did go back. You can get this London Lodge material on certain websites, free websites, so that's good.
Wow.
And it's just interesting looking at all these theosophical beliefs from like the 1900s or the 1880s, the 1890s, and seeing how it correlates with what we're talking about, what we believe these days. I mean, there's another name that crops up in Lovecraft stories, an Alice Bailey. And I got one of her books, and I got, she spoke with one of the Tibetan masters about consciousness and the whole universal thought and, being in touch with the one source. And I tried reading that, one of her books called Human and Solar Initiation, and I got to about page 23, and I was like, nah, I can't do this. This is just gone.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, it's time for us to go back to basics, which is one of the main things that kind of prompted our thinking on hitting the beginner's guide again. Because, like, for us, when we first got into everything, I mean, just the sheer volume of information, people, thinkers, researchers, contemporary people, it was too much. It was really overwhelming. And we were looking around at other people that we knew to see what they were looking at, because obviously if they were looking at it, that had to be what we had to be looking at.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of getting into it. And obviously when you're getting into it, you don't know a lot of these terminologies, and you can't tell your 3D from your 5D to your 1D to your 2D. It was seriously mind-boggling. And like, I can understand, like, for some people, why it would be such a turn-off, just the sheer amount of information. So again, going back to the beginning, going back to the start, going back to where we begun.
Yeah.
Is it necessarily a bad thing?
No, I think a lot of people in this community can, they obviously want the truth and they go to different sources. But I think you can get caught up in the fantasy of, well, kind of the fantasy. Not, what am I trying to say here? I'll get it.
Don't get it controversial, all right? This is a family show.
Yeah, right. I know I've been known to ruffle a few blue feathers in the past, but it's kind of like they have something they need to look forward to, or they want to look forward to. They have this idea of how disclosure should look, or how first contact should look. I know, we've probably already had it, but people want that experience. They want to see the craft coming down, landing on whoever's lawn. They want to see it being beamed onto their TV screens. But I think to understand why you want that, you need to go back and find out how this all started, and where the original concepts came from, and why, why we still believe in it today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we had so many successful conversations yesterday, because we also managed to secure our guest to do the Anunnaki beginner's guide.
Oh, cool.
As well. I have a very, very dear friend of mine, Ray Davis, who is at Sixth Sense Media, and he is also the author of the Anunnaki trilogy.
Right.
So that's going to be interesting, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are a bit.
There is. I mean,
let's go into this with an open mind. Let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
It's maybe another spoke in the wheel. You never know. Again, as I've always said, just because something's improbable, it doesn't make it impossible. And we're at a point now where we need to keep an open mind, that we need to realize that things do need to change, that things aren't as we've always thought they are.
No.
And the sooner we find out who we are, where we're from, the better.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of star seeds. I mean, the whole panspermia concept, we are not local to this planet.
Yep.
And But I think when you look at, you mentioned Anunnaki then, you look at the old, you got the Eric von Daniken, you got Zachariah Stitchin, you got Michael Telling just talked about the Anunnaki. And I think the whole myth behind them, from the original, Mesopotamian and Sumerian tablets, has got so distorted over the last 20, 30 years that they've just become this kind of mythological god race where that might not actually be the case.
No, absolutely not. And it's not through the story itself getting lost in translation. It's people that have made that story.
It's additions and expansions to it, like everything. I mean, all right, let's use Star Wars as an analogy. You've got the expanded universe in Star Wars, and people added onto it and created new mythologies within that universe. And then it all just went completely ridiculous when Chewbacca got crushed by a moon. So that's if you don't have control on the story. I mean, I'm not saying you need to control the story. You just need to stop your imagination from going way up there.
Yeah.
Or people telling you that what happened over there is what happened because they say so. Just go back to the original sources, research, find out more, take your own path and find out where it takes you.
Yeah. I mean, will we ever find out the honest truth with the past kind of known collective knowledge embargo, shall we say, the suppression of information? I mean,
no, we'll never find out because the powers that be will never want us to find out.
No.
I mean, I truly believe that. We only have to look at the mess we're in the moment, globally, not just locally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's. I mean, there's more than enough sort of like stories out there relating to the fact that the Library of Alexandria was never properly destroyed. It actually been like rummaged first by the Romans, and everything had been taken to the Vatican.
It was, and archaeology. I mean, I don't know a great deal about the Library of Alexandria, but I spoke to Dr. Heather Lynn in the last issue, and she could have had a career in mainstream academia if she'd followed the rules, but she didn't want to. She saw what was happening. One of her first college assignments was to choose a name from a list of names on the blackboard and debunk them. And all those names, people like Robert Schoch, Robert Bauval, Graham Hancock, Eric von Daniken. And it's your first day in college and you're asked to debunk their findings. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean that's just playing into the established game straight away. And
of course.
But
that was the beauty of Robert Schoch and John Anthony West.
Yeah.
It was.
They challenged the Egyptology mainstream.
He was like the original guerrilla archaeologist.
Yeah. I mean, you look at those things now, all right, it was covered in sand for God knows how many years. Then you see it, and it does look like geological weathering, water-based geological weathering, which ties in to the W. Scott Elliott book that I recently read. Because he goes on to say the two main pyramids in Giza were actually built around about 80,000 years ago, and then the rest were built later as kind of copies by the pharaohs who wanted something majestic for them to be remembered by.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't remember. I think it may have been last week with Jason. I had this very same conversation about will we ever know? No, because the powers that be will never let us know. I mean, the conductivity inside the chambers themselves. The Great Chamber being built before hieroglyphs were even invented.
Well, and the fact that there's no sarcophagus in there.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But just burial chambers, really? I mean, all right. Certain archaeologists, etc., think there's another 60 chambers that they could find inside that Great Pyramid because it's big enough to house another 60 odd or something like that. I think it is. There was a number thrown out a little while ago.
Yeah. Well, just because it's big enough doesn't necessarily mean they're there.
Well, exactly. But there again, I mean, you remember back in the 80s when we was told that that's it, we found everything there is, there's nothing else left to find.
Yeah.
Hello.
True. But you go out into the White Desert, west of Egypt and west of the Nile, and you're finding like these giant whale skeletons and anemones and various crinoids and giant squid kind of fossils in the bedrock there. And that just points to the fact that, yes, that region was underwater at some point.
Yeah.
So why are you trying to tell people that it wasn't? I don't know. It just makes no sense anymore.
That's it. Yeah, all right. Just shut up shop then. That's it. We'll call it a day. But no, it won't, because it's not enough. Because as soon as I do, as soon as we shut that camera off, we're going to be laying in bed later on. We're going to be like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, like the latest one that I saw was for the Eye of Africa being the possible like target spot for Atlantis.
Yeah. I do like that too.
Middle of the desert, but they've still managed to find shells and bits and pieces like that around there.
Exactly.
How does that work?
I mean, the layout of it as well certainly relates to what Plato said.
Yeah.
And what he was told by Solon. So
yeah, the sizes, the layer of rings, how many it had, and
but I don't know if any archaeological stuff's been if they're allowed any digs down there or not.
Again, it was the same in Turkey at the site of the Noah's Ark, weren't it?
Yeah, and they did find a wooden vessel halfway up a mountain, or on the top of a mountain, didn't they?
On top,
old wooden beams. Yeah.
And whenever they tried doing an excavation after that, then that was it. The armed guards brought them down, or they were deployed and told to move on and stuff like that, weren't they? I don't think there was ever a full, proper excavation.
Well, the biblical flood myth, the whole Noah thing, there are so many flood myths of that same scenario going back before the Bible. So like the Sumerians had it, and even the
every culture, every race.
Yeah, the Celts have it. The Incas had the same kind of story. We'll put them all in a boat, wait for the flood to recede, and then we'll start again.
Yeah.
But who knows? It could be anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could be anywhere. I mean, my favourite still is, I'm thinking the Azores and Lanzarote and Canary Islands. They're the tips of the mountains of Atlantis. There was
one that I shared out earlier on. I'm pretty sure I shared it out earlier on. I saw it online, and it was to do with Spain being the home. So not too far off the money there if it's the one, mate.
Well, the Basque language is pretty unique in as much as there's no other European languages that are relative to it. I mean, the same could be said for some of the Welsh dialects as well. I'm pretty sure there was something about the Welsh language being very similar to something over in the Near East. I'll have to look that up and refresh my memory on that, but it's just amazing that you have, all right, the Basque Country, Catalan, Barcelona, and all, this little isolated pocket of language still exists thousands of years when all other tongues have kind of evolved into what they are today.
Yeah, I mean the lady that I was with before I met Sarah, she was Basque, and I got to go out to Spain and spend a bit of time out in the Basque region with her, and the people absolutely beautiful, and they are very, very, very staunch and very, very strong on their Basqueness, if you prefer. Do you know what I mean? They're very, very big on it, and it's something that they're so passionate about in so many ways. Because even though they're kind of living in Spain, they're doing the Spanish thing. No. This is bad. This is how we are going to do it.
Yeah.
And then obviously with everything else that happened, right until recent times with the ETA, or I don't want to say the name just in case anything strikes up on YouTube or anything. We are a family show. But things like that. I mean, so many people try to destroy that.
Yeah, they have their own identity. It's like the Yazidis in Iraq, not in Iraq, around the Eastern Turkey, Kurdistan, and all that. I mean, these are people who are pilloried for their belief in the fact that they are the chosen people of that area, and they are regarded as Satan worshippers, whereas they just hold a different belief. But there is this constant purge of the Yazidi identity and the bloodlines, and it's quite sad to see. I mean, you see it everywhere.
Yeah, and again, you know, it's makes no difference who you are, what you are. We're human.
Yep.
So
I mean, look how many species of different species of dog there are. A dog gets on with another dog. Doesn't matter what the other dog is; it still gets on with it. So why can't
especially
humans?
my dog, he really gets on with other dogs. Yeah. How are we doing in the chat room?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No worries. Sorry, Mika's gone over and passed out on the sofa.
Oh, bless him.
I know. Little known fact, he spent over 3 hours up the park with his granddad playing football this afternoon.
At the pub or the park? The park.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, yeah, up the park with Dougie the dog as well. Dougie's laid down right next to him, kind of like that. Right next to him. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Right, questions?
Yeah, I've got questions.
Right, Dave, are you ready to go to a few questions, mate?
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Here we go. Let's spin you around to Sarah.
Hey there.
Yeah.
Closer.
That's good.
Okay.
Right. The first one is from John. Who would you like to interview that you haven't interviewed yet?
Well, when I first started it, I had a top 3 wish list, and that was Linda Moulton Howe, Richard Dolan, Peter Lavender, and I've done those 3. I think the person now I really want to get hold of is George Knapp. I want to do a complete biographical interview with George Knapp, going back to pre-Bob Lazar and to where he is now, investigating all the TTSA stuff. So yeah, that's a dream.
Don't forget to tell George Knapp that you've got some friends that do a show that I'd love to have him on. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. John, again, your thoughts on cryptids? I know we've lightly covered that.
Yeah. No, they definitely exist. I mean, we have no way explored the whole of this earth. You got the forests of Northwest America and Canada. You got, obviously, there's Antarctica, but it's the oceans, I think, where we need to look for. You got the giant squid. You got rumors of megalodon. You know, they always crop up every now and again. But yeah, I just wish there were more cryptids in the UK, to be honest. It'd be nice just to spend a night out in, go trekking in the north of Wales, trying to find something. Or Scotland. Yeah. The Scottish Isles must have something.
Oh, that'd be wicked.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I like the all the lake monsters. I love all those kind of things, like Champ at Lake Champlain, the Ogopogo in Canada. There's one in Lake Malawi as well, supposedly. Can't remember what that one's called. But yeah, all those lake monsters, they're brilliant. Bring them on. You know, they're not just sea lions or river otters or sea otters doing their thing. It's something in there, even if we haven't found it.
Yeah, it's something very deep in the ocean that we haven't got down to yet.
We haven't explored like 95% of our own planet, but yet we're going out exploring others.
That's it. That is true.
Yeah. I mean, James Cameron will probably find something because he's got the technology to do it.
Yeah.
And the money.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike's asked your thoughts on what demons are.
I think demons are something different to everybody. I mean, that's case in point with all the world religions. But my own personal opinion, yes, they are dark entities. I think it's residual energy left over from whatever traumatic events have happened. And this has been passed on to objects or people. And, you know, I don't think there's possibly physical manifestations like we see in Paradise Lost, for example, or something like that. At least I hope not, because if there is, then that'd be terrifying. But yeah, I think it is just residual energy that just latches onto people and stays with them because it needs a home. Kind of like shadow beings. They just want to. I think they want to feel something again, and that's something they can't have if they're on their own. So I think they need that connection to humans. So yeah, I think, I do really need to look into demons a bit more, but that's my initial thoughts, and that's where I want to take that kind of research going forward.
Okay. John's asked, are you planning to go to ECETI anytime soon?
No, purely because I can't afford it.
No,
flying from the UK, it's just, I think I'd have to fly into Portland or Seattle and then get a hire car and then drive all the way down there. Then you got the cost of staying at ECETI itself. And at the moment, sadly not. No, because I want to go to Contacting in the Desert too. I want to go to AlienCon. I want to go to MegaCon, UFO MegaCon. And it's just, it does cost a lot of money if you're not in that specific country. I mean, we'll be going to Awakening in Manchester in July. But that's, because it is local and, well, say local, still 300 miles up north, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd love to go to the American conferences, and ECETI has been high on my list for a while, mainly because of the reports of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
The Sasquatch sightings around there. The sky watches are notorious. You see the videos on the ECETI YouTube site, and I don't know, just to experience something like that, seeing all these different craft flying above you, I think that'd just be brilliant. But yeah, is that John Ledford?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, John, for doing that piece in the mag, by the way. Appreciate it.
Also, are you staying up in Manchester? Have you got digs up there, Dave?
Yeah, I got the hotel sorted.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike has asked your favourite UFO book, mystical book, or any other you can think of.
John said you're welcome, Dave.
No worries, John. I like the Welsh Triangle book by Peter Paget, which was released in '78 and focuses on the Broadhaven UFO flap. That's a really good book. I think the Donald Kehoe books, definitely, would recommend those to anybody. Just the amount of cases and the fact that Kehoe actually managed to speak to American Air Force pilots before they started being censored as well, so they were giving him information freely. Mm-hmm. Another book which came from, it was recommended to me by Teresa Yanaris, who obviously had affiliations with various people in the community and has since, taken herself right out of it. But she recommended Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton, and I read that, and my outlook on where we come from and the whole kind of the life of our souls and past lives, future lives, and where we go in between the lives, that just completely opened my mind so much. Wow. So if you can find it, I recommend that one.
What was the name of the author again?
Journey of Souls.
Dr. Michael Newton.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah. Well, it's not a big book, but it's he's a hypnotherapist who dealt in regression for childhood traumas, things like that. And one day he accidentally tapped into somebody's past life. And then it kind of branched off from there. People started talking to him about what happened, seeing their own deaths and what was happening to them after they died, so they could float, the stereotypical, you can see yourself on the operating table or the hospital bed as you're floating up. You don't know what's
Yeah.
going on. Yeah, so yeah, that was a really, really interesting book.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've just got a couple on order as well at the moment. We've got UFO photos by Jason Gleaves.
Yeah.
And Without Consent by Philip Mantle. We've got those on the way as well.
Yeah, and I'm currently reading Evil Archaeology by Dr. Heather Lynn, which is going on about demons and their attachments to various artifacts and locations throughout history. So that's really good. I'm just up to the bit where she's just discussing Cortez and the whole Aztec massacre and Inca massacres, which is pleasant reading at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Sets you up for a nice train ride, right?
Yeah, it does. It's brilliant.
Just don't make eye contact with anyone on the train.
No.
Tanette has asked, do you think the Old Testament and the New Testament are from the same God?
No. You've got the Old Testament, who was this kindly old beardy gentry man of a god, and then the New Testament, you've got this vengeful, wrathful God. Or have I got that the wrong way around? There are definitely two distinct personalities in the books. And reading other books throughout the years, you get to find, well, you can assume that it may relate to the Anunnaki. So you've got the whole mythology around Marduk, who obviously became a god in Babylon, then he spread out to Egypt, and then you had all these other different gods who spread out into different regions of the earth. So it depends where the books were written at the time, I think. But I'd say that there are definitely two distinct, deities, if you will, in those books. One is more benevolent, and the other is just a nasty piece of work.
Okay.
Just put it succinctly, yeah.
Yeah. Don't pull those punches, mate.
Yeah.
Okay, John Levers asked, have you read the Peter Lavender? No, I don't know how to pronounce this at all. Cthulhu books?
Cthulhu books, yes.
That's the one.
Yeah. Lovecraft Code and Dunwich. Yeah. Love them. You know, obviously big Lovecraft fans, so any fan fiction, I've got, shelves and shelves of Lovecraft fan fiction. But yeah, when Lavender came out with those, I was stoked. I mean, you got one of the greatest historical occult writers of our time putting his spin on HP, one of my favorite authors of all time. So, reading that Lovecraft Code, he's just nailed it. You've got the whole Cthulhu mythos in there. You've got the plight of the Yazidi people in Iraq. You've got kind of this reluctant professor who goes around. He takes possession of, the Necronomicon, which is supposed to be just a figment of Lovecraft's imagination. However, when he finds out it's an actual physical object, and there are government agencies following him who use remote viewers to try and locate the book and this professor, and it's kind of like a big modern day Indiana Jones adventure. But then followed it up with a Dunwich Code, and that went more occult into more darker themes such as rituals, satanic rituals, child trafficking, that kind of thing. And it got very dark to a point where I almost had to put it down. I really did get quite uncomfortable with some of the subjects in there. But then I'm interested to see where he takes it next with the third release, third book of the trilogy. I think it's called The Starry Wisdom, which will be out August, I believe. I just want to see where that's going to go, because, at the moment, that could be one of the greatest fan fiction Lovecraft trilogies of our time. And if you notice about Peter Lavender, he always writes in trilogies as well. I don't know what it is. He likes the number 3.
Magical number, that's why.
Absolutely.
For Lovecraft, what book would you recommend for a beginner?
Oh, Christ.
not putting you on the spot or anything, mate.
No. Apologies for blaspheming.
That's all right. Mika's asleep now. You've got open reign, mate. You can drop the F bomb if you like. It's all.
For a beginner, I'd go with. It's hard to actually pinpoint one because of the language that Lovecraft uses. He was a big Victoriana. Was it Victoriophile? He basically loved Imperial England and Queen Victoria and the whole kind of
An imperialist.
Yeah, he was basically, and yes, he was a racist at times, but most American authors of that time and previous to that were as well. I mean, Mark Twain is a classic example. But because Lovecraft decided he'd like to use all this prose and all these flowery adjectives throughout his writing, he's a hard writer to get into. Just for that, but I'd go with possibly start with Dagon, which is a short enough story which kind of sets it all up. You get a feel of where he's coming from, you get the dread, the terror, and then you get the mystery of elder races or ancient rituals, things like that.
Fantastic. Cheers, mate.
So yeah, start with Dagon and then go straight to Mountains of Madness, because that'll tell you a lot about Antarctica.
Right, okay. That was Mountains of Madness.
At the Mountains of Madness, yeah.
Okay.
But you can always go to, for At the Mountains of Madness, the BBC actually did a 6-part serialized version of it.
Okay.
And I think that's on YouTube as well, so if you can dig that out, then I'd listen to that, because that'll keep you hooked.
Right.
Really good.
Yeah, John's just said that it's probably best to listen to them on audio.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, because I'm not a great reader.
Okay, well, that's the questions I've got from the chat room. I've got
Cool.
you try and curl up next to Mika.
Is that it? Absolutely everything?
That's
Give
all the
you give everyone another couple of minutes, or is that all done and dusted?
Well, I've put a thing out. Anyone else with questions? I've had nothing else as yet. So.
Do you want anything you want to ask, though?
Not I can think at the moment. I've been too busy looking at the chat.
That's all right. You can be you for a minute. I'll ask Dave a question if you want.
Oh my goodness! Now you put me on the spot.
It's one of those shows I've thrown everyone under the bus tonight.
Yeah, No, I wouldn't do that. I'm too busy making sure that everything's still running. That's my job.
I know. It's all worked perfectly, actually, today. Well done.
It has. Thank you.
Excellent. Right, cool.
Mark's just come in.
Oh, Mark Tirana's just turned up.
Yeah.
All right, Mark.
There'll be questions. So I'll fill time until Mark fills up the chat room with questions, okay?
Yeah. Where did you get your sign from? Behind you.
Which one?
The Sasquatch one.
That was sent to us from a friend over in Seattle. That one.
Cool.
And we got, I don't know if you ever saw the artwork that we had done by one of Mika's school friends.
Yeah, seen that. And you got the Erik Stitt artwork there.
Always Erik Stitt.
Always
100% Erik Stitt.
Yeah.
You know that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's a lovely bloke.
I know.
Lovely bloke.
I know. What I would give genuinely to have him on and have like a proper no holds barred conversation with Erik, because Erik has been with us again since pretty much day one. Since I discovered his artwork and reached out to him. I mean, his time that he's put into stuff that he's done for us, the love that he's always given us, the support on everything we've always done. Erik has always been there. Erik, Kim, the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And for that, we're always going to be totally indebted to them. Words can't say how much love we've got for those people, which is why I always do everything I can to make sure that his name's out.
Yeah. I mean, I did an interview with him in our 3rd issue, and just such a nice guy to speak to.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah. There's nothing. Even my mum fell in love with Erik. My mum. Seriously.
She loves it.
Yeah, I mean, she loves everyone, but she's got a real thing for Erik. She just
Yeah.
thinks he's an
Erik and
absolute
Dex.
adorable. Yeah, Erik and Dex. They're my mum's go-to
Oh,
guys.
Dex. Yeah, I need to get hold of Dex actually.
He's in
Yeah.
the chat room.
He's in
Is
the
he?
chat
He's our
room,
moderator.
so,
Yeah.
Right.
he knows now.
Dex,
Right, so
I'll
look
email
into the
you.
camera and tell me.
I'll email you, Dex.
Mark Strana.
Here we
What's David's opinion on pear trees?
Right, okay,
I mean,
so
really,
I'm going to pass you back because
Mark's now being silly.
Mark's in the room fully.
My opinion on pear trees.
How
I
about
like
the
pear
first day of
trees, just not at Christmas.
Yeah, and how about the first day of Christmas?
First day of Christmas is fine. First morning of Christmas is brilliant. The 12th day gets a little tiring.
Great Mark, stolen from the pagan.
It's having all those cows coming in. And, sorry?
Yeah.
Dex is well aware that you now want to get hold of him.
Cool. Yeah. It might take me a while, Dex, but I'll get there.
Yeah, no problem. Can you
Yeah.
see him?
I can see him right there. There he is. The beard.
Yeah.
The UFO Gandalf. Oh, Mika.
No, this.
Heart stout. You and
Oh,
Sarah.
yeah. Bless.
Anything else, Mark?
No.
You're okay, Mark. Right, okay. Right, so I'm gonna take Dave back and close up then. There's
Okay.
nothing else from the chat room. Right. So Dave,
Yeah.
have you got anything in the future? What have you got lined up for us?
Well, next issue, like I said, we got Richard Dolan, Tracy Dolan. There's a feature on the chemical composition of crop circles. We got Dr. Rita Louise talking about ancient weaponry. Got Brian Allen, editor of Phenomena Mag, who's going to give me a feature about, well, spoke to him about Rosslyn Chapel and whether or not there's a portal inside it. So that was really interesting speaking with him about that.
Yeah.
Top 10 crash retrievals, which was held over from last month because I decided to do Total Lovecraft.
Yep.
Which I've only just come out of. Got some, piece on Antarctica as well. Just looking at some of the common myths about the Antarctic continent. Not going to say whether they're true or false. I'm just going to run it and let people decide, for themselves which they want to believe. We'll also have a competition to give away tickets to Awakening in Manchester in July, so that'd be good.
That's a hot ticket. That is a hot ticket. I know people that are, So that's cool.
Yeah, I got a few pairs, I think, so that'll be a good competition. And we still got the Bob Lazar poster.
Sorry, mate, carry on.
I was going to say we still got a Bob Lazar signed poster competition running, so that's another month to go on that.
Yeah. Well, there are plenty of links to Shadows of Your Mind out there because every promo that I've put out for the show, there's been links put out. Also, in the show description of this as well, you will find Shadows of Your Mind link there as well, so you can read until your heart's content the fantastic hard workings and meanderings of Mr. David Partridge. So it's gonna be. I had to.
You
Do you know how long
long
I resisted doing?
Does Dave think Roswell was ET or human?
From Mark Serrano, Roswell, human or ET?
ET. There you go. I've read lots on Roswell they were children from the local hospital. They were Japanese POWs. It was the Russians, it was the Greeks, it was the Atlanteans, it was the Martians, it was whoever. The fact of the matter is, it wasn't a weather balloon. Something happened. One or more craft crashed. Bodies were found. Bodies were covered up. The story was covered up. Something happened. Wasn't human. Wasn't a test flight. So definitely. And that's what started it. Started off the whole journey of where we are today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that was the cat. Even though, like, for thousands of years, there's been cave paintings depicting
Yeah.
like bits and pieces like that.
Everyone's going, oh,
that
those
was-
wacky cavemen.
But again, you know, you look at
Yeah.
1947, you look at the Roswell crash, you look at the technology that was then released,
Yeah. After.
1947, like
It's
all the way
crazy.
through 1948. You look at the list of patents, the list of inventions that came out in 1948 and in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
There's no way possible that was coincidental, right?
No,
No
I mean,
way.
there's that classic scene in the first Men in Black film with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. You know, he's going through all the inventions. Oh, yeah, Velcro, we got that from Roswell. We got microwave, you know, things like that. Kevlar, fiber optics. You know, it's too much of a coincidence to say that that was ours.
Yeah. Did you see the post that Awakening put out yesterday about whether or not we actually ever left the moon? They put out a
Whether
little
we left the
post
moon?
yesterday and it had a
Yes.
video. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
about
that was
12
by
minutes long, I think.
Steve Mera as well, that he put that out. I
Oh,
think.
did he?
Think so. Yeah, he put it on his Facebook thing. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I also saw there's a
I
link
posted
to.
it.
Yeah, I saw you posted it, and I saw, Awakening is posting it. Steve Mera posted it, and it's been reposted everywhere. There was another link that I saw about a guy who's gone through every photo from the Apollo missions on the NASA website. Some, I don't know how many photos there are on there, but he's got several pictures of the flag on the moon, and it's got the caption, "The telescopic pole that the US flag was on didn't extend properly, so that's why the flag looks like it is, because it wasn't, it was all held together with rods, basically, so it was supposed to be just a rectangular flag, but because the telescopic pole didn't extend properly, you got this kink at the bottom, which looks like it's waving." So that was, pretty interesting set of photographs, that was.
Because I got thinking of that. I mean, obviously, we're gonna get to meet like Ken Johnston at Awakening.
No, we're not.
Oh, is he not there?
No, he's not there anymore. He's ill. That's why David Adair's appearing instead.
Right. Okay. I missed that.
Yeah, it's ill health, unfortunately.
Right. What we got here? Because it got me thinking, like, then of sort of like Project Horizon back in the 50s, where they were planning on putting a garrison like up on the moon, and when they said about it, I was like, hang on a second.
Well,
that was
Iron Sky, something like that. I mean, that's it's tongue in cheek, but that just suggests that there was a base on the moon.
Yeah.
I mean,
all
right.
Say about the transient lunar kind of phenomena, the light and stuff like that, and people saying, well, obviously there's got to be people on there because we're seeing all this light coming from the moon, and everyone's always seen it. Said it. Astronauts have reported it on the way past.
I mean, astronomers saw it, years and years and years ago. The Astronomer Royal even noticed anomalies on the moon back in the 30s, I think, or 40s. But what you have reminded me about is an old BBC radio program called Journey into Space, or Operation Luna, as it's sometimes called. That was released in 1953, 54, broadcast on the BBC Light Programme service. And it was written by a guy called Charles Chilton, who was...
What was the name of that again?
The show was called Journey into Space, sometimes called Operation Luna.
Okay, mate.
And it was written by a guy called Charles Chilton, who had previously done like Wild West stories, and things like that. But I think this was his first foray into science fiction, and he imagined the year 1965, where we send up the first manned mission to the moon. Now, on the way, this craft of like 3 or 4 people, they get up to the moon, and they land, and what they find on there, they can hear music coming from outer space. Apollo 10, right?
Right.
I mean, Apollo 10 was 69.
Yeah. No, 11 was 69, wasn't it?
I think 10 was 69 as well, wasn't it? May 69.
Was it?
Was it?
Did it only went up a couple of months before Apollo? Yeah. Anywho, carry on.
Yeah, so they hear music, which they think is weird, and everyone a few of them freak out. And then they also come across a glass dome on the moon as well, covering a crater.
Haven't we heard that before somewhere?
I think we've heard it plenty of times since. I know Edgar Mitchell mentioned something, and there's in Richard Hoagland's book with Mike Barra, Dark Mission. That's they talk about glass domes on the moon.
Yeah. It reminds me a bit of that the book that came out in the I'm trying to think, was it the late 18th century about the ship called Titan, and the events that happened were like identical to what happened to the Titanic.
Yeah,
that was eerie. Exactly how similar those two were, because I'd done a little bit of research back before I got into the whole ufology thing, and it was absolutely bizarre how accurate these things were. Middle of the night, hits an iceberg, an unsinkable ship, goes down, thousands of people on. Hello, honestly, it was so bizarre. I mean,
well, that's happened quite a lot, because there's a guy who provides articles for me called Rafael Videla Eisman, who's he's from Chile. And he sent me an article on this guy called Benjamin Talman, who wrote a book in 1875. And he'd seen the Santiago of the future, Santiago, capital of Chile.
Yeah.
And he described all these different things, and he gave a list of about 22 observations that he had of Santiago. Wrote it all down in a book. Book was lost over time. Only like 2 copies existed, and I think they're both. I think one may exist somewhere in a library, but all of the copies have disappeared. But come 1975, someone had looked back to what he wrote, and 19 out of those 22 observations that he had actually transpired in Chile.
That's so bizarre.
How does that happen? But this guy, Benjamin Talman, he's an enigma himself. So whether the book is actually fake, possibly, because we don't know if there's any existing copies. Although I do trust this, Raphael succinctly. He's given me lots of information, and he's a good writer to boot. So
that's cool.
But yeah, it can happen. I think people get glimpses of the future, they write it down. Nostradamus, classic example, for instance.
Perfect. Yeah. And the interpretations of some of those quatrains of his as well are very they kind of a bit tailor-made to a degree, but when you look at sort of like certain nuts and bolts of it, you can't deny what was said.
You can't. The thing is, Nostradamus as well, he was writing in a language that wasn't French, because the French language as we know it didn't come into modern parlance until way after he died. So he was actually writing and speaking in the local dialect, which was a version of medieval French, but specific to the region he was traveling around in, which was, like southwest, southeast of France.
Well, you've got a few. Dave, are you all right to do 10 minutes more overtime, mate? I know, obviously, it's Saturday evening, right, because we've had a couple of latecomers that have thrown a few questions at us. Right, I'm going to spin you back around to Sarah, buddy.
Okay, I'll try and make this quick. We've got a couple of questions, so no more questions from the chat room, guys. John's asked, is there a connection between Crowley, Jack Parson, and Roswell?
And Roswell? There's definitely a connection between Crowley and Jack Parsons, because Parsons was an initiate of Crowley. And he was a member of the Ordo Templo Orientis, I believe. But Crowley was actually, he warned Kenneth, what's his name? Kenneth Graham? Can't remember, but Crowley actually got wary of Jack Parsons just before Crowley died. So I think because he was getting into all this Babylonian magic, and Crowley thought he was going too far. But then Parsons, obviously, he carried on with the JPL, laboratory in California, and he is the forefather of the American rocketry, liquid fuel rockets program. There's a good book, Jack Parsons' Sex and Rockets, which details his whole relationship with Crowley and Kenneth Grant. That's the name, Kenneth Grant. But yeah, that's really good. If you get hold of that, it should tell you everything you need to know about Crowley and Parsons.
Okay. Mike has asked, have you ever interviewed Michael Schmidt? Donald Schmidt, sorry.
No, not Donald Schmidt. Or, no. I mean, I've got a huge list of people I need to interview. Well, not need to, want to. And it's trying to schedule the time because obviously I'm in the UK and most of these people are in the US. So time difference, 6 hours on a good day, 8-9 hours on a bad. I've got a full-time job. So usually my interviews run, from 10:30 at night. It could go on till whenever. Two, I think, is the longest I've done an interview for. But yeah, there's people I need to reconnect with. There's people I need to email back. And yeah, if everyone said yes, then I've got enough material for another 6 years.
Yeah. And
hopefully by then, the UFOs have landed and I don't need to do it anymore.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're going to do this for a long time and you're going to carry on loving it.
Yeah. No, I do want to try and get Tom DeLonge.
Yeah.
He's very elusive. But yeah, I want Tom DeLonge. Tom, email me.
You think he watches out?
No. He might.
Okay.
We'll send Dex on him. Dex will just hound him non-stop. Dex, that's your mission. You've been tasked as moderator.
Get on it.
To get Tom DeLonge on our show.
Oh, we have movement.
Oh, it's alive.
Mark has asked, what was Rendlesham ET or human?
Rendlesham, I like to think it's ET, just because of the testimonies of Colonel Holt, John Burroughs, people like that, because I don't think that you'd send out that many people to investigate something that wasn't.
And the Holt tapes just sound too real.
Oh, they are. It's incredible. I mean, you got John Burroughs who had the digital download as well, and he's just seen all these different symbols in front of his face that he has to write down. Yeah, you don't get that from interaction with a landed helicopter or something like that, or a lighthouse.
No, was it last year? I think one of the newspapers put out there was an SAS prank.
Yeah. It was a prank on the Americans by the SAS. Yeah,
that's right.
Nice try.
Funny that one.
Okay. Mark has asked, was James Forrestal incident suicide, or was he thrown from the window?
Thrown, 100%.
Suicided. Yeah, definitely suicided. Yeah,
he was aided. Euthanized.
Don't change the guard for someone like Forrestal, who was Secretary of Defence, to you on the night that his brothers, or the day before his brother's going to come and pick him up and take him out of, Bethesda Naval Hospital. And the fact that LBJ had visited him and tried to convince him not to go to the press with what he knew. I think that's the telling, that's the telling point of that story. That someone chucked him out the window.
Absolutely. The next three are from Mark, so I'll just ask them all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Did Apollo 11 land on the moon?
Yeah. Well, probably. Maybe.
Was there an Apollo 10?
An Apollo 10?
Yeah.
Apollo 10 was before Apollo 11. Does he mean Apollo 20?
And was there an Apollo 18?
I like to think that Apollo 18 was cooperation between the Americans and the Russians.
Yeah.
Because I think the Americans probably had the bragging rights for actually getting to the moon, whether they landed on it or not. Obviously, evidence suggests that they did. The Russians obviously had bragging rights for the first man-made object in space with Sputnik and the first manned flight in space. So I think it made sense that they were working together for a common cause. Whether that video of was it Mona Lisa, Apollo 20, that supposed video of they found a body on a craft on the moon. I think that's already been proven as a fake a couple of times, and it just keeps cropping up. But there's no reason to assume that Apollo 18, 19, 20 didn't happen, and probably more after that.
Yeah, I mean the other pictures of sort of like other sort of like civilizations and that alien ship that was what 4 miles long or something up on the moon.
Yeah,
from one Apollo missions.
But I think that was. I'm pretty sure there was a French artist that came out and said he was commissioned by NASA to do that as an artist's impression, or he did it for a. Or did he do it for a science fiction novel? Don't know. I remember reading an interview with. It was definitely a French artist who said he had something to do with it. But whether that was just to cover up and he wanted a bit of attention, who knows? We don't know until we get up there ourselves, which,
Yeah, but even then we won't know, Dave. I mean, it's the same as the Mars copter that they've got out at the moment, isn't it? All we're going to see is the hashed versions and the retag versions of what they want us to see, right?
Oh yeah, we'll get there and it'd be Lunar Disneyland.
Yeah. Okay, that's all the questions from the chat.
Are you sure?
Yes, that is it. No more questions.
Right, okay. Right, so just to close on the chat, Mark said, what if Rendlesham was future humans? Ta-da!
Well, that could apply to any interaction that we have.
Yeah, of course.
At the end of the day, future humans, that could have been the Lonnie Zamora case. That could have been Roswell. It could have been, the crash in Aztec. Could be anything. But yeah, I mean, if future humans are coming back and they're trying to warn us, we're not listening. Or
No, absolutely.
The people that should be listening aren't listening, which is disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, like Aurora. I mean, that was the earliest crash, wasn't it? Aurora. Did you have a look through the SOM 101?
I flicked through it.
What do you think? Do you think it's fake? Do you think it's original?
I think it's like MJ12 documents.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take it with a pinch of salt. I mean, it's not Serpo, to put it that way.
Yeah. No, because it just seemed strange, like when it was released around like the Kingman crash time and stuff like that. The way that everything was dealt with from that point on was pretty much accurate as to how it was in the SOM 101. So.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah, I'll focus more on it because I'm going to start working on a new issue this week anyway. So I'm going to.
So I even threw a copy to John D'Souza as well. So I haven't heard back from him yet. So I'd be interested to see what he comes back with as well.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool. Yeah, let me know what he says.
Will do. Dave, thank you so much for coming on. It's
been
thank you, man. Absolute pleasure. And sorry about the brass knocker.
Mate, there's always that bus that you throw me under.
Is it only the one?
Yeah.
I'm not a serial bus thrower.
No, remember, I never forget.
I know, right? I know. That's the worst thing about it.
But no, I do want to thank everyone who's contributed in the chat. Obviously, I haven't been able to see what you've been talking about, but I appreciate you hanging out.
Yeah, well, live chat is open, so when you go back and watch the replay, which I'm sure you will at some point,
for that
wonderful moment.
I'm going to record it, download it, distribute it, put it on a CD, and send it worldwide. Yeah.
Oh, Dave, that's brilliant. Seriously, that'd do wonders for my views.
Yeah.
All part.
Oh, no.
Right.
No,
thanks,
seriously,
Dave.
yeah. As we've said, repeatedly, the magazine's available on their website. It's free. Download the PDF. And if anyone wants to contribute to it, write a feature, do anything, just get in touch. I'll always respond to emails, even the nasty ones.
Anyone you want to give a shout out to before you go, Dave?
I want to thank you, Sarah and Mika, for inviting me on there for a start. I want to thank everyone who's read the mag. I want to thank everyone who's put up with me while I've produced the mag. hasn't always been easy, and yeah, I may be weird at times, but you know,
It's great.
We love weird. Embrace the weirdness, Dave. Embrace the weirdness.
I do every day. But no, I truly support, appreciate the support, that the Mag's had since it first started, from everywhere worldwide. It is global, the readership. So I truly do appreciate everyone who takes time to actually read it and, make a comment about it.
And it has got such a great name as well. It genuinely has. So
if I can remember where the name came from, I'd tell you, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Anyway, would you mind awfully thanking Mrs. Partridge, Little Partridges, and everyone else for letting us have your time this evening?
I will do when they wake up tomorrow.
All right, Dave. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. Speak to you later.
Cheers, Jimmy.
Peace and love. Bye, buddy.
Bye.
Wow, there we go. What a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic show. I didn't think we'd be able to top Jason from last week, but Jason, I think you've just been rumbled, buddy. I really, really do. Right, so we've got a few shout outs in our new section. First shout out is to Sue Walker. We received a piece of art this week, which we commissioned for Mika to have done because of his love for the Ponte. Sarah's just going over to retrieve it at the moment, so excuse me for looking off cam. And everyone that knows Mika knows that he adores radar. So we actually have our very own piece of Sue Walker art, all done in chalk, commissioned for Mika, and holding his guitar, which Mika actually named his guitar Radar after Radar. So a big thank you to Radar for posing for it as well. Secondly, we'd like to always thank Erik Stitt, Brett Larson from Inquire Within, Jack Stavely. Now, Jack, you don't see Jack about, but Jack has been the first person to donate to our PayPal. We set that up, I think it was last week, and I forgot to plug it. What we've done is we've set up a PayPal because with the way things are changing, technology is changing and bits and pieces, we want to try and stay on top of it. And we want to try and bring you far more of a better product. We want to bring you far more of a professional product. We're currently working on a new platform at the moment to make it a little bit more better for you, a bit more graphic. I'm not going to go too far into it, but when we pull it off, it'll be brilliant. It genuinely will. So all the money that we're getting now in our PayPal, we're now putting towards upgrading our gear, getting new gear. And Jack donated £50 the other day into our PayPal account, which is going towards a small camcorder that we're buying so we can do interviews at Awakening. So thanks to Jack's generosity, all of you people out there that watch us, you're going to benefit. So thank you very much, Jack. Chat room, thank Jack. Who else would I want to say a big shout out to the boys in the Unidentified, UFO Chronicles UK. Not sure if you caught the post they put out this week. They actually done a 5-hour Art Bell UFO special, and it was phenomenal. I think I managed to get to about 3 hours before I passed out. It's the voice. Art Bell's voice does it to me every time. So I've got the last little bit to crack on there. So well done, Nick. Team, you've done a great job there. Davey, expanding the process. I know you've had a bit of a hard week. Hang on in there, mate. Seriously, you're doing good at what you're doing. Don't let the haters get you down. Natasha Nix. I want to give a shout out to Natasha because I know she's been poorly. I haven't heard a great deal from her. I have messaged, haven't heard anything back. So get well, Missy. Our moderators, and most of all, we want to give a big thank you to every single one of you that's come, watched the show, been in the audience, interacted, because without you guys, we couldn't do what we do. And you make it so much more worthwhile. Oh, need the diary. Right, so, ladies and gentlemen, if you're sat comfortably, I shall begin. Starting on the 6th of April, we are starting our beginner's guide. The first one up on the 6th of April will be Kat Hobson from Fate magazine over in America. And she will be doing our beginner's guide to the paranormal. The week after that, on the 13th, we have Philip Mantle. A lot of you may know Philip. If you don't, you should, because he owns Flying Disc Publishing. He's printed many, many important books. His work is known all over the world. It's been translated into many different languages. A book worth getting of his, which we've just ordered, is called Without Consent, and that's one of his best-selling ones. He's doing our ufology beginner's guide. The week after that, the 20th, we have Ray Davis, and he's coming on to do our beginner's guide to the Anunnaki. Ray runs Sixth Sense Media with Dennis Nappy. And I forgot to give them their shout out. Sorry, guys. Big shout out to Ray and Dennis at Sixth Sense Media. How did I miss that? It's because it was Natasha. My bad. So yeah, I've got Dennis coming on. He's wrote the Anunnaki trilogy. Ray coming on. You may have heard him on Fade to Black and various other shows. The week after that, on the 27th of April, we are doing our beginner's guide to psychics, and we've got a lady coming on by the name of Sabrina Campbell from Canada. Some of you may have heard of her, may not. She's quite a well-known person. On the 4th of May, we are doing our beginner's guide to telepathy. And we have 2 guests on for that one. We have Sue Anotta from the Sandia Mountain. On the 11th of May, we have our beginner's guide to cryptids, and we have the Beasts of Britain on. That one I'm quite excited about because I don't really know a great deal about cryptids. So I'm going to be learning proper beginner style with you guys as well, for those of you that don't have that much of a clue. And that's all we've got for the time being. I am trying to get Alan Steinfeld on at the moment for the 18th of May to do a remote viewing beginner's guide, because he has actually studied under Russell Targ. For those of you that aren't down with remote viewing, the remote viewing program that was set up during the Cold War was set up by Russell Targ and Dr. Hal Puthoff at the Sanford Research Institute. So, you know, we all know the story there. If you don't, then there's a wonderful film coming out later on in the year called Third Eye Spies, which looks totally amazing. So yeah, so at the moment I am trying to get Alan Steinfeld on to do a remote viewing 101. So there you go. That's what we've got coming for you at the moment. We've got some great guests. Still plugging away. We've got Jason Gleaves in the sidelines as well. Definitely having him on because he has a new book coming out. Again, Jason has been on Fade to Black. And he's actually become quite a good friend. We've chatted quite a lot recently. So looking forward to getting him on as well. Is there anything you want to add, Sarah?
No, you've got everything. Everyone is
Okay.
saying what great 101 we've got.
Don't forget, if you're in the UK, in a couple of hours' time, the clocks go forward 1 hour. Okay, so we're now going to be at British summertime. And also, if you're in the UK, don't forget, tomorrow is Mother's Day. You've got an hour and 45 minutes to get yourself down to the local all-night petrol station, get a really naff bunch of flowers, which are probably half past dead anyway, and a nice box of chocolates in case you've forgotten. All right? So there you go. Look at that. See? We're doing public service and everything here. One-stop shop at Fascination Street. Okay. So, from Sarah.
It's a good night for me.
From
I passed out, Mika.
And from me, it's also a good night. Thank you all so much for being here, getting involved, and making this show everything I always hoped it'd be. Genuinely, thank you so much, and we'll see you all next week. See ya.